Good afternoon, folks. Once again, thank you for coming. It's a pleasure to have you here with us again. We recognize that you have many options to spend your valued time. However, you have decided to spend it with us once more. I know we're competing with Taste of St. Croix tonight. And for those on St. Croix that were able to make it, thank you. This is very exciting that we're going in this direction. And we definitely welcome your valuable input, as this will make this document even stronger. We have refreshments on in each area. We're being simulcast in St. Thomas at Innovative Center at UVI. We are at the Great Hall in St. Croix, and we also have St. John at the Legislative Building. And so we are definitely happy to have St. John this time, as we weren't able to the last time. And we also have online. So thank you guys for joining. On St. Thomas, again, the bathroom is located behind, to the left of the room. I'm sure someone might be able to guide you to that. We have water and snacks available for you as well. The water is bottled. We are trying to get away from that. However, we don't want you to be thirsty either. So just bear with us for that moment. And one important factor is that we are going to share different opinions, all of which are valuable. We need everyone to respect each other's opinion and have a valuable discussion amongst each other. And also, we are in a limited time crunch, especially with the fact that we have St. John tonight. We have to make sure we allow the legislative staff to be excused at a reasonable time. So we're going to keep questions to less than a minute, preferably 30 seconds or less. And so we're going to rotate, as we did the last time, from each building. So if you can have a line set up where you can get to the microphone in a timely manner and have a fair chance at voicing your concerns or anything you want to voice. And also we'll be rotating online. So being it that St. Thomas has more individuals at this time, after the discussion, after the presentation, we'll start with St. Thomas, go to St. Croix, then the Legislative Building, and then online. So have a wonderful time, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Gonell. Oh, our Executive Director, Mr. Ware, is going to be having opening remarks at this point.
Wow, that's not a problem for me at all, except I spoke to Dr. Gwinnell today. Ask Dr. Gwinnell, what's my participation, just in speaking? No, you good. Oh, yeah, I'm opening remarks. Nonetheless, thank you guys for coming out, showing your interest in what's of incredible importance to the territory, an integrated sustainable material management plan. Because at least we'll know that we're marching in a direction that we all could agree that we should be marching in. And like I said to Dr. Gwinnell, when we were meeting over the plan and developing it, right? I'm committed to what we have in the plan. So, speak up, speak your minds, and we'll put a plan out, and I'll commit to follow to the plan as much as I can. But thank you, Dr. Gwinnell, and anybody else my staff and everybody else who pitched in on this, the public who pitched in on this. Thank you. And again, thank you for your support and your interest. You can take it from there, Doc.
Yes, thank you very much. And sorry for the last minute switch, Director, and thank you for jumping at the task. But I wanted for you to talk before me. So based on all that, I'm just going to start the presentation. I just realized there's some Okay, apologies. We had the presentation somehow disappeared, but it's back. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming here on St. Croix. Thanks for coming those in St. Thomas. And thank you for those who are online. So today we're going to present an update to the plan based on the feedback that we received from the general public at the last meeting, as well as some additional discussion that we've had with within the Waste Management Authority group. So why are you here? I think you're here because you care, right? Because when you think about the Virgin Islands, you're thinking about a beautiful environment. When you think about the Virgin Islands, you're thinking about all the cultural activities that happen, the identity that we have through all the experiences that we have together, right? And unfortunately, we often see things like this, right? And so you're here tonight. And for those who are here for the second time, you are here because you care and you want to be part of trying to find a solution to try to eliminate sites like this so that ultimately we can really enjoy our Virgin Islands. What we find is that, unfortunately, we have sites like this because the Waste Management Authority is facing a lot of difficulties. The Waste Management Authorities is facing a huge amount of garbage being generated. Some of it is because we are on an island, so we have to import everything, but also because we are a big destination for tourism, and tourists generate trash like we do. So that makes us one of the highest in the US and one of the highest in the Caribbean in the amount of garbage that we are generating. On the other hand, as I mentioned last time, there's limited capacity, there's limited budget, limited space, limited capacity, and we are very developed. So we have an urban system with a capacity of a rural system. And so as a result, the territory and the agencies are constantly struggling to find talent, but also to find money to manage all the waste. And there is a lot of challenge when we're thinking about waste. And we're going to go over that in a second. But the thing is, there is also a lot of opportunities if we can properly manage waste. So hopefully in 10 years, 15 years, when this plan will reach its end of life and there's a need for a new plan, hopefully in the decade to come, we will be able to recover the value of what we discard. So just an example, if we were to be able to recover all the metals, the cans, the rebars, the discarded windows with aluminum on them, the metal bars on houses that we discard, all the metals in this room, we would be able to make $19 million a year, right? So that's the amount of the value of some of the metals when we looked at how much metal is in our garbage. If we were to recover all the cardboard, all the stuff that we get from Amazon, all the cardboard that when we buy a 6-pack of water, if we were to recover all of this cardboard, we would be able to make 3 to 4 million a year. If we were to be able to capture all the green waste, turn it into composting, all the food waste, and turn it into composting, that would be 2 to 4 million a year. Even the glass, if we were to crush all the glass from all the bottles and turn it into concrete for roads or other type of projects that do not even require the type of scrutiny as a house, then we would be able to make $1 million a year, right? So this is what we can do if we can properly manage. There is also a lot of opportunities for repair and reuse. We throw a lot of clothes, we throw a lot of electronics that we cannot repair on island because of a lack of talent. I can testify that I've been trying to fix a fridge, and I was trying to figure out who can fix my fridge, and I was not able after 2 months. I had to get a new fridge, right? And then there are opportunities from the new challenges. Sargassum is a challenge. You've seen the beaches. We cannot turn it into composting because of the metals. We cannot burn it because of the metals and the high salt content. But maybe we can look into biogas or biochar. So there are opportunities that we can start thinking about for waste that is difficult. And then there's also a potential value for waste to energy, but we need to really understand before we dive into anything, and I will get into it in this presentation. But before we get and capture those opportunities, there are also a lot of issues that we need to fix. And as you will see later, the plan basically asks that waste management spend some time inward before looking outward. There's, as I mentioned last time, for those who were here and for those who are new, the legal framework to manage our waste is almost 50-year-old, and it hasn't been touched since. What we have done since is passing laws on a ad hoc basis, opportunistic basis that do not really fit into a larger comprehensive approach. And so as a result, there is a fair amount of rules and regulations that are outdated or that do not exist. I had a discussion the other day about somebody who remembered when Department of Health was charged with picking up roadkill. And apparently that was a big deal because there was a lot of roadkill back in the day. And so there was a whole unit at Department of Health that was created to deal with roadkill. That's not really so much of an issue these days. What is an issue is medical waste, hazardous waste, and especially with so many people who, do care at home and generate all type of waste. The problem is we don't have any framework. Nobody's in charge of that. So as a result, waste management is in charge of it. So waste management has to pick up everything that is not in the law, that is not the responsibility of another agency, or there's no responsibility or no plan for it. I mentioned hazardous waste, medical waste. There's also batteries, electronics. In 1978, the idea of personal computers didn't exist. The idea of cell phone didn't exist. Car batteries didn't exist. But that's part of the waste stream now. This monitor, everything in this room will go to waste management, and we do not have any rules and regulations for that. So you get the point. We need to fix the laws. The second, which is related to the fact that we have a fragmented law, is that there are a lot of agencies in charge, but nobody's in charge. And at the end of the day, waste management has to deal with it. We have a lot of organics. There's a new law that was passed about burning organics because of the emergency situation that the landfills are in, but we don't have a comprehensive management approach that is codified. Tourism is not addressed. How do we deal with tourism? How do we deal with the waste that the tourism industry generates? Who pays for it? We pay for it. But like I said in the first slide, there are nearly 20 to 50 tourists per resident, but we pay for it. So we need to think about this. And so as a result, there's a lot of illegal dumping. Illegal dumping because people stop caring. Illegal dumping because we don't know what to do. Illegal dumping because it's inconvenient, because dealing with waste in the territory has become a very difficult task. So what you saw in that picture is the result of the challenges that we have. So based on that, we had a lot of discussion. We heard you during the last town hall. And we came up with a series of recommendations. Those recommendations are in the plan. Those recommendations, I'm going to give you highlights tonight of those recommendations. This is going to be the last public meeting about this topic. So please provide us with, your comment, ask question, because we're going to do one more round of edits and then send it to Waste Management for approval by the board and final approval. And this will be hopefully a document that will last 10 years. So the general approach, the general guidelines are to, number one, update the law. It's very important that the law is updated. The second is to address the fiscal and operational challenge. The waste management is a constant deficit. They don't receive the money that they're supposed to receive. And so they owe vendors, they owe contractors, they cannot hire. As a result, they are in constant crisis. They are hostage to vendors. And I think you've probably seen some highlights of contractors stop working because they haven't been paid. So the fiscal crisis needs to be addressed. And the operational challenges need to be addressed. When I flew out the other day from St. Croix, there was a fire, right? There are fires on a regular basis. The staff is working constantly to try to suppress fires, suppress crises. There are a lot of operational challenges, even with picking up white goods and stuff like that. And for those who have paid attention to the Senate hearing, the issue of green waste is growing. They have to deal with a lot of green waste that is being generated by growth of the vegetation and maintenance in general. The WAPA is going to be more aggressive, so that's going to generate more waste. And then we know any type of storms breaks a lot of vegetation, generating even more green waste. So those are the big emergencies that the waste management has to deal with. The other thing that we kept in mind as we developed the plan is that before launching a new initiative, before saying we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we need to have the infrastructure in place. It's nice to say, yes, we're going to have recycling in 2 years, but let's build the infrastructure and then say, yes, we're going to have recycling for you in 6 months. That way we manage expectation, but we also make sure that we understand the whole process. We have the staff, we have the machinery, and we know what to do before going into something, then realizing, oh shoot, we forgot about that. And for those who have followed some of the WAPA discussion recently, you can see it can be very costly when you jump into new endeavors without making sure you understand and you have the infrastructure in place. The next one is to focus on material that have value on islands. And so that's trying to develop the infrastructure to deal with the metal, the cardboard, and stuff like that. But again, it's going to take time to make sure that infrastructure works before jumping and say, oh, we're going to start composting next year. The last is to use caution. It's nice when we go to the States, we see all the nice machines, all the nice technologies. We want to bring it here in a VI, but then we realize that there is a lot of problem because we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the maintenance, we don't have the supply chain. So being very careful about seeing something in the US and then bringing it here without really thinking through how it's going to happen. And then the last one is to beware of costly technology because of what I just said. Any type of costly technology, brand new technologies comes with maintenance, staff, supply chain issues. And we know that we struggle with these, and this is not a waste management issue, it's a territory-wide issue. We are a small island, we have limited capacity. So we need to live and work with those constraints. So that being said, I'm going to go through a series of recommendations, a lot of lists. I'm going to try to go through it as fast as possible, and then we're going to be open for comments. So the first one is to update the governance of service delivery. It's a bit of jargony. That's the best way I could find to basically say that we need to think about the whole model. Are we contractor dominated or are we in-house dominated? Right now, waste management does a lot of both. Most places do either contractor dominated or in-house dominated. What we recommend is maybe continue to do both, because it's very hard to do either, because waste management owns the landfill, but the contractors don't. Most places that are contractor dominated, the contractors own the landfill. So they create incentive to reduce waste. But the contractors, the more garbage they pick up, the more money they make, and they don't have to deal with managing it when it reaches the landfill, right? But if you are all in-house, then you need to have a lot of money for the garbage pickup, the garbage management, the equipment, replacing the equipment. So what we say is maybe try to continue the current system, but put performance requirements on the contractors, put more things out for bid, basically create more performance indicator type constraints on a contractor to really sort of make sure that they meet those requirements so that you really get the best bang for the buck. The next one is really sort of taking time to increase the organization protocols and create internal controls. There are standard operating procedures that have been created for St. Croix. I haven't seen them for St. Thomas. So we need to have operating procedures for St. Thomas, and we need to figure out how to implement them in terms of environmental controls, operation control. So really sort of strengthening the capacity to put in place all those operating procedures across Ireland and really have a strong handle on your assets, on your maintenance schedule, and all other operational control. One issue that we found was that after the hurricane, waste management had difficulties getting reimbursed because they didn't have the titles for all the vehicles. They didn't have the proof of ownership of some of the equipment. So really spend time in-house to deal with that, so that when a crisis comes, you can better handle it, but on a general basis, you know what you have, you know where it is, and you know what it takes to fix it. And then there is a need for training and mentorship program within the agency. So basically strengthen the capacity of the agencies itself by looking inward. The other one is the revenue and the financing. So basically strengthen inside and then make sure you get the money that you are owed. And so for this, there is a recommendation to put a fee for residential solid waste. We don't pay for garbage. We are the only place in the US where we don't pay for garbage, but expect our garbage to be collected. So there need to be some sort of revenue generation that comes from other than the general appropriation for the government. Waste management need to be more and more autonomous financially. Right now, it's kind of like the contractor and the landfill. They own the operation. They have, a board, but they're not in charge of their money because they depend on the local government for it. Whereas WAPA generates its own money. UVI generates a lot of its own money, gets some from the government. So we recommend to do the same for waste management. Ability to generate their own money through directly putting a fee from the general public, in addition to continuing to receiving the way they have. The tipping fees, and that goes back to having a different relationship with contractors. Right now, it's by volume. As soon as one bin is full, and that's mostly for St. Thomas and part of St. Croix, the contractor can go and dump it and be paid for it. So we recommend to change it from volume to weight so that there is incentive for compacting. There is incentive for really maximizing how much you take when the bin goes away. And then there needs to be some sort of fee for all the special items. In most Caribbean islands, if you make a phone call, hey, I have a fridge that needs to be picked up, within a day or two, somebody comes and picks it up. But those islands charge a fee. When you purchase a fridge, there's a $5 fee because they know that at some point you're going to get rid of that fridge. You're going to get rid of that TV. You're going to get rid of that washing machine. And so it's called advanced disposal fee, where you pay when you buy it so that when you need to dispose of it, you make a phone call and it's gone. And if we do that, I can guarantee you that the number of white goods that you will see in the bush will go down, because that's why people throw the washing machine and the dryers in the bush. They don't want to drive, they don't have a truck, so just dump it in the bush and hope nobody sees it. Same thing for e-waste, all those electronics. Going back to environmental control, really sort of think about enforcing and implementing the standard operating procedures that are created for St. Croix and expanding them to St. Thomas. There are ways to limit the number of fires that occur. There are ways to limit the dust that is being generated from the landfill. It takes money, it takes material, it takes manpower. But right now, we have some operating procedures and recommendations for St. Croix, not for St. Thomas. So expand them and then implement them. Same thing for the stormwater management. There was a stormwater management plan for St. Croix. We recommend to take as much as we can, implement it for St. Thomas, and really try to minimize the negative impact that the waste bin and the landfill have on stormwater, because this water captures all the contaminants. Those contaminants go in the guts, they go in the nearshore environment, and eventually it degrades our quality of life. Organics and green waste. So acquire and operate incinerator to manage excess materials at landfill. This is easy. The law was just passed. So hopefully within the next few months, we're going to start to see some reduction in the green waste in the territory. At the same time, start to put in place composting infrastructure. And going back to what I said at the beginning, it's important to really work through the infrastructure before launching the program. So making sure we understand where it's going to be, who is going to operate it, how much it's going to cost, where we're going to get the money, etc., before starting the composting in a territory. Once that's established, then we can start the mulching and the chipping. We can start the source separation. There is a lot of food. 60 to 70% of the garbage generated by restaurants is food. So there is a lot of food that is thrown in the garbage that can be used for composting. So requiring source separation, and then commission a feasibility study for anaerobic digestion. So that's basically see if we can turn sargassum into biogas. There is a lot of opportunities with glass, but first, let's do a demonstration that we can use crushed glass as an amendment to concrete when DPW paves the road. Again, we're not asking to use it to build houses. We're saying put it on the road and see how it works. I can give you a hint, it's going to work. It has been done in other places, and it's going to reduce the cost because waste management doesn't have to pay for that glass. As you saw in the first few slides, if we were to buy that sand, if DPW had to buy this sand, they would spend $1 million a year. So they can give that $1 million to waste management in exchange for the sand generated by the glass. But nevertheless, the finances, it reduces the pressure on the landfill. So once everybody's convinced that this is a good way to use the sand, then we can start operationalizing glass crushing, figuring out the infrastructure, what does it look like, and then source separation. And here we would not start the source separation at the household. We would start it with the hospitality sector, the hotels, and the restaurants, because they are the biggest generator of beer bottle and rum bottle and stuff like that. I'm sure many of us, many of you enjoy your drink, but our consumption does not compare to what hotels do. For plastics, what we recommend is starting really conversation about banning single-use plastic, use of styrofoams, use of plastic containers. They cannot be recycled. They are harming the environment and they are harming our health. A lot of studies have shown that hot food in plastic result in you ingesting petroleum product. What happens, and you know that, I'm sure from your own experience, when you put hot food in plastic, the plastic sort of gets a little soft. It melts a little bit. Some of that means that you have plastic material going into your food that you ingest into your body. It is not healthy, and it is not good for the environment. We cannot recycle it, and it often flows away because it's very lightweight, ends up by the side of the road, or just in general create more volume for the Waste Management Authority to manage. Many islands have moved to that. Barbados, even Jamaica, many islands in the Caribbean recognize the danger to the health and the danger to the environment. Establish bottle legislation. Same in the US, 25 cents. You go back, you get your 25 cents back when you return the bottle. That will help with the recycling. Identify one or two strategies. It can be recycling, or as there's a startup on St. Croix for reusing and making new product with plastic. They're called Replastic. Partner with one or two. On St. John, Island Green Living is doing recycling. So maybe identify 1-2 partners and work with them fully. Just at the end. Yes. So yeah, to the end. Yes, to the end. Sorry, my apologies. But the idea is really just work with 1 or 2 persons, because the more people that you have to deal with, the less effective it is, because ultimately recycling of plastic is not cost effective in a territory. So the more volume you can give to one entity, the more success this entity will have. Metals are very valuable, and we are losing a lot of money every time we throw a can in the trash. Maybe 100 years from now, trash landfill will be mines, for all I know, because of the value of the metal that we throw in there that cannot be recovered elsewhere. So the idea here, the recommendation is really to sort of establish the infrastructure and create partnerships, same with plastics, create partnerships with those who are working very hard at creating this market and using this market, and then start engaging the community when those infrastructure and partnership have been made. Make it easy for the community to drop off all their metals in one location in a clean manner. Otherwise, it's going to end up in the bush, or it's going to end up in the landfill. There is a lot of fees right now for tires that the waste management does not get, in addition to people dumping tires in the bush. So really updating the fee structure, the way that it's being collected, the way that it's being enforced, to really minimize the amount of tires going into the bush, but also ensure that waste management receive the money from the treasury for all the fees that we pay for tires. Abandoned cars do not have a very clear authority. According to the law, it's Department of Police. It's the police department who is in charge of abandoned cars. But we all know now that it is either the manager for the island or just waste management. And they don't have any money. They don't receive any money. But a car is a hazardous material. Oil, gas, all those fluids need to be treated, removed from the car, and that costs a lot of money but there's no revenue for it. So really establish a program to fund managing of the car. It can be an advance fee. Every time you buy a car, import a car, there's going to be an additional fee because eventually you're going to have to get rid of that car. Or create a program where it's very clear what to do and they get money from the general fund to handle those cars. But right now, cars are in a gray zone. And like I mentioned earlier, other items are in a gray zone and waste management has to pay for it. And then the last thing is what we're doing tonight, engaging the public. We have a section on the need for more interaction. That was the comment that was the most common, the most prevalent, the loudest after the first meeting. More public engagement, more discussion, more update, more dialogue. And so not only continue increase engagement, but also engage in education and outreach to really sort of have that dialogue and really educate people about why it's so important to properly dispose of material. I cannot tell you how many times I see people just literally just throwing stuff in the bush without even thinking about it. So we need to change attitudes. Okay, so these are the last slide or the last, I think there's one more slide and then we can open it for question. So those are the priority action for year 1 to 3. And as I mentioned, those are internal looking. Update laws and regulations, stabilize finances and operation, create ways to make more, to bring more revenue through the collection fee, garbage collection fee, establish some of the environmental control to really minimize air quality, water quality, sort of disruption. And air quality is both fires and dust. Improve communication and launch the education and outreach campaign. Create the framework for green waste. Again, put in place all the infrastructure, identify the partners so that once you start it, you don't stop. Because many times I know that people have started in the past and then it stops. And most of the time it's because infrastructure issues. It's because manpower issues. So really spend the time to really sort of figure it out before. So once you launch it, it doesn't stop. There is a lot of discussion about energy recovery. So there was a study in 2009 that was done. It basically said that at the time, it wasn't clear if it was a good idea because we don't generate enough garbage and those type of industry tend to require a lot of money for maintenance and upkeep. So what we are recommending is before, trying to do it again with new people, bring new technology, let's work with the national labs. They will redo the 2009 study and tell us, what does it mean in 2026, if it's a good idea. So year 1 to 3, basically look inward, strengthen your operation, get your house in order, create your finances, make sure you have all the money. Year 3 to 6, start looking at all the special program for composting, white goods collection, metal collection, all those type of activities that can generate revenue. And that will definitely reduce the pressure on the landfill. And then the last few years, start looking beyond, thinking about biogas generation, sargassum management, all those, a little bit risky, a little bit unproven, but hopefully by then, the technologies would have been tested elsewhere, but you have a little bit more room to maybe try to see, okay, what's feasible with some of those materials that are still presenting some challenges. For those who don't know, biochar is a type of, it's basically charcoal. For those who were maybe creating charcoal back in the day by burying wood in the ground and then let it cook. Anybody remember that? Anybody done that? Digging a hole and then just creating charcoal. It's kind of like that, but it's more new technology where you burn at a particular temperature and you get this sort of really nutrient-rich, carbon-rich material that you can use for gardening. It requires a lot of talent. So that's why we don't have all those new stuff, until later. And then C and D is construction and demolition, really trying to get, more value out of this. But it requires big machinery. We need crushers to crush the concrete, turn into gravel or surface material, machinery to really sort of separate all the metal, all the rebar, but it requires a lot of machinery. And at this point, like I said, let's focus on year 1-3, year 3-6, before we move on to the more complex operations. So I believe that's pretty much it. The recommendation that I presented tonight are meant to maximize reuse of resources within the island, ultimately reduce pressure on the landfill, reduce pressure on the environment. We don't want to have to build new landfills because the landfill is full. So let's try to minimize how much we send to the landfill by really sort of maximizing how we can divert away from the landfill. But before that, strengthening financing, strengthening capacities so that once new operations are launched, they don't stop because of issues that arise. So that's it for the plan. That's, as I mentioned, tonight is the last opportunity to provide comments. For those who were there the first time, you will see there's some, I've added a few new things. In the plan itself, I've also added some material about the need to better prepare for natural disasters, because every type of natural disaster generates garbage, any type, even drought. We have more water bottles. So that's pretty much it for tonight. We can now open it for questions and comments.
Okay, so before we go on to questions, we have a bit of etiquette in terms of having everyone speak in a concise manner. Everybody has a fair share of being heard and also have the information presented to them. So first, Dr. Gunnell, I'm going to ask you a question I'm sure everybody wants to know, because the last time I think it was on the slide, how can persons make comments, and how can they see an updated plan for them to review?
Yes, so we will share an updated plan to everybody. There's a sign-in sheet. So everybody in a signing sheet, everybody online also had to sign up. So in a few days, in a week, we will send you all an email with the text of the plan so that you can review it. And then you can send comments. We had, yes, you're right. We had, let me just bring it. Give me 1 second. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. tinyurl.com/solidwastevi. And let me make this bigger. Where is the Zoom? I don't see the Zoom. If you go to this website, 2 weeks. Yeah, you have 2 weeks to send comments. 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today. So that would be the last week of June. Hold on, give me a second. I'm gonna bring the test.
I just want to know if the plan included the relocation of the St. Croix landfill.
So the plan does not provide any location for the where the new landfill will be.
So with having all this planning but nothing about the location, which for decades we keep hearing have to move. That doesn't make sense to me. So when are we going to look at the the problem of moving it from where it is?
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We do not present any sort of we don't say in a plan that the new landfill will be over here. So,
Dr.
we
Guano,
we can discuss, oh, go ahead, Mr. Ware, Director Ware.
look like you may need some help. Apparently, that's not the purpose of the Sustainable Material Management Plan, right? It's to create the chart, the blueprint for how materials will be handled within the territory, right? The discussion about where the landfill goes next is a whole separate discussion. And Dr. Guanel's group would not be in a position to say it should go X, Y, or plot A, plot B, or plot C. We have to have 6 different phases of that landfill closed within the next 2 years, and then I believe another 10 to close the rest, correct? Yeah, so there is some time. In the meantime, what this plan does is create a chart, a blueprint for landfill diversion in a way that we're gonna be reducing the landfill, a need for a landfill at all. When we're talking about things more globally, what this plan probably would not have been able to address, although it said explore waste energy options. Dr. Guanel probably wouldn't know that that's going on all the time. And with the advent of the new convenience centers that we're gonna be having, if everything works out, they'll be turned into transfer stations where you wouldn't have much of a need for a landfill anyway. But in the meantime, not even I know where the locations that are being offered if we do have to move on.
Thank you, Director Ware. 2 questions here and then 2.
So we'll have two questions on St. Croix, and then we're going to switch to St. Thomas, and then we're going to switch to St. John, and then we're going to switch to online. So everybody's going to have 2 questions on each side, and we're going to have short questions because we're going to be here till 7, and we have to be prompt with 7 because we cannot go over time for St. John. So we have 1 question on St. Croix, and if you'd like to come to the podium here, it would make things a little bit easier. I know mobility might be an issue for some, so if you need me to come to you, I can. And the same for St. Thomas.
Good evening. My name is Diane Brooks. I own a company called Get It Done Recycling. I am also on the Virgin Island Conservation District Board, which is under agriculture and no oversight from the government here. I have been recycling here for 9 years. I have 55 tons of plastic that it started bailing today. I have had many meetings with EPA about the situation with the tires, because there is a law on this island that was also amended so that privatized people can take the tires off the island. The first thing Waste Management was supposed to do was to get land from DP&P for people to have a place to bring their tires to. 6 years ago, I got the land. I just got my lease yesterday. Ware knows all about all this, but the question now, EPA is saying, if I'm removing tires from the island and they're leaving them, why are they saying they need money to remove tires? I'm eventually going to be involved in the conversation, but we are taking the plastic. We've started the cardboard now. I have a glass pulverizer. I have a whole, I'm doing y'all's job. Now, if I can do it as an individual old lady, I don't understand how you can do it. And the money that the tire companies have been paying $1 and $2 for 20 years is what you're going to use to remove the tires out of your landfill. No government money needed. This is being paid by the tire companies when the tires arrived here. So what you're sitting here talking tonight, I'm very behaved, but we have been removing aluminum and for 9 years.
Yes, thank you. Hold on. We're gonna do St. Thomas after this.
Well, my question is why are you telling them things that aren't
So-
factual? That's
so-
my question.
So on the fee side, what's happening is the fee goes to,
It's in the general fund.
it goes to the general fund and it doesn't make its way to waste management.
It's
And so, yes.
Yep.
So thank you for your question. And I'm gonna respond, and the response is this money is not making its way to waste management. And so as a result, waste management has difficulties to meet some of its
because
obligations.
it didn't get the land.
And so thank you, but I'm responding. So what we are suggesting in the plan is to ensure that all the monies actually flow into waste management, so they do not have to fight for it every year on a regular basis. Thank you. And on the recycling part, I'm really excited to hear what you're doing. And what we are saying in the plan is really that all the recyclers on the island sort of, have a discussion among themselves, because at some point, waste management is going to have to pick only one or two and go into partnership with them when those convenience centers are put in place. Because the more one person or a few folks have, the better it is for exporting, especially plastic. It's a very expensive endeavor. So I guess I applaud your effort, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to have those discussions after the plan is put in place to really sort of maximize everybody's success, because it's everybody's success that we have in place. So, St. Thomas?
Yeah. Okay, so I understand everybody's passionate, and it's a good thing. That's how we get the best plan possible. However, we got to be timely. So I'm going to move over to St. Thomas. We're going to have 2 questions in St. Thomas. If you can make your way to the podium or the closest mic. If anybody doesn't have any questions on St. Thomas, we'll move on to St. John.
There are questions. There are questions.
Move to the closest mic
That's in my
so we can hear you.
Speak up normally.
Oh, where are you from there?
Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lon Henry. And I'll be quick. I really like, compared to the first plan, that the second plan, it's talking a lot more about waste diversion and taking the pressure off the landfill, recycling, doing these reuse, eco-friendly type activities. I love that. What happened to the e-waste regulations that were put in place to manage e-waste? Waste management has them. It was set up at the landfill. I don't know what happened to that program. Number 2, I didn't understand the comment about the SOPs that are on St. Croix regarding the environmental standards that you need to bring to St. Thomas, if somebody could explain that. The issue regarding wanting to start or to put in place regulation for the styrofoam, a senator has a proposed law already. We have met on it several times, so it's nice to hear that waste management would like to do this, so maybe this might be the impetus to get that implemented. And I want to say, the health effects is the same thing with the single-use bottles. And then, finally, 3 to 6 years, Director Ware, for.
You know I write the plan, right?
Which plan?
This.
Oh, sorry.
I could have responded to the same thing, right? 3 to 6 years, that I'm with you.
I ain't happy with that at all, especially based on the intent and the spirit of the ACI bill regarding composting, chipping, and mulching. Those are so my question is regarding that. I would like for the consultant and waste management to reconsider that 3 to 6 year period regarding that. Thank you very much for listening to me.
So I can take I will answer most of the question, and then Director Ware, please feel free to add. And those who have a second question, we see you, just let me answer the question. So, Ms. Henry, you had your first question. I forgot actually, I remember the second. E-waste.
E-waste.
Yes, so thank you about the e-waste. Right now, I was not able to get any copies of regulation related to e-waste. The way that it was explained during some of our calls was that e-waste, waste management is in charge of residential. DPNR was sort of putting in place a framework for commercial. I was not able to get any copies of that, but more importantly, this is a type of approach that we find is not efficient because at the end of the day, it creates a lot of gray zones and it creates a lot of opportunity for confusion where ultimately either people put it in the bush or waste management has to handle everything. And so what we are recommending is to take the time to create in a new regulation how e-waste will be managed. And more importantly, there is no funding mechanism for e-waste. But we know that e-waste costs money because we have to send it off island, and there is no revenue mechanism. Most places have, I see you, Director, most places have some sort of fee that you pay, advanced disposal fee that you pay to help assist with the proper disposal of e-waste. Director Ware, go ahead.
One quick second, that on the e-waste, St. John is up here? I don't see St. John on the screen.
St. John is still there.
Okay, our Chief Sanderson of Solid Waste is on St. John, and she could give you some information on where we are in the RFP process for dealing with e-waste.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Sheena George, Sanderson, Chief of Solid Waste. Right now we have put out the RFP for e-waste, and I think right now we're waiting for response. And then after that, then we'll be able to clear the e-waste that we have on the both islands of St. Thomas and St. Croix, and then we'll begin accepting the e-waste from residents after that. And I think that would be in the next 2 months or less. Thank you.
So we will update the plan accordingly. But yes. And the SOPs, so the point about the SOPs is the consultant for waste management, OSIS, created a lot of SOPs to control odors, methane emission, suppression of fire, even for waste stormwater management. But those were only created for St. Croix. And so what the plan says is to create SOPs for St. Thomas to deal with the same type of issues. And then the next step is to put them in place and actually implement them.
Actually supposed to be replicated with Oasis on St. Thomas. The intent is actually there it's already funded through our hazardous waste grant for that.
Well, we will then update the plan accordingly. You had a point about composting, I think was your third question for the 3 to 6 years. The point is the waste management has to deal with the existing stockpile and then put in place and figuring out how they're going to be developing the infrastructure in-house to be able to handle more green waste and start a composting operation. So we believe that it's unlikely to happen in the immediate future. And so that's why we put it in phase 2. Director Ware, you want to amend that?
On the composting?
Yes.
Well, like I've said in the first 2 and publicly, I am fully for composting, right? I'm looking for a public-private partnership on any of this. I have composting requires space, there's no doubt about it, and it requires infrastructure. I had a presentation made to me just yesterday from a company that wanted to come in and do composting. So I said to him, look, I have the easiest job here, I have trash, right? You asking for an investment from waste management of millions of dollars for composting, when, like Dr. Guanel said, I have a myriad of problems with the existing structure of waste management that I need every dime for. So if somebody wants to come in and partner with us to build a composting compound, whatever, hey, we here for it. But I can't pay for it. Not right now. Excuse me.
Okay, yeah. All right, was there another question? I think you had 4 questions within your question.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so there's another question on St. Thomas?
Dr. Guanel, yes, but his voice is soft. So
Right, let go. Where did it go?
down goes Fraser.
Got it.
Okay, he's gonna speak.
1, 2, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No.
Maybe you can ask the question to the St.
Yeah.
Thomas audience, and Director Ware, you repeat it to us?
He said, taking crushed cars to lay down number 11.
Like a like
Oh, like the number 11.
Drop the compost several times a year. Just 50 simple sections. Compost unrolled.
But this is a small scale composting situation. It's okay.
Try to.
Oh. What he's presenting is a concept utilizing crushed cars and putting the compost material in the middle and having a tractor with the front end loader. Okay. On a yearly basis, he said we'll have tons. Now let me ask you a quick question. What are we gonna do with it? It will go back to the schools and the farmers and
the new registered back farm.
the new registered
Back farm.
back farmers. Selling excess produce straight to the supermarket. This sounds like a great idea for the Department of Agriculture.
I've been telling them this for years.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
So if I understand, for the St. Croix and those online, the gentleman proposed a plan where they store compost inside cars, and that helps with dealing with the car issue as well as using the compost.
I don't know if that's what he was saying.
No.
But at either rate, Dr. Gonell, it's
a framework for composting using cars as the crushed cars, sorry, as the framework, which would then produce
yeah.
the materials that can be used to support farmers with the excess of materials produced, of the excess produce going to the markets to be sold and create a profit.
So, yeah, as Director Ware mentioned, this is a good idea that can be shared with the Department of Agriculture. With regard to the plan, the answer that I would give tonight is that it's a good idea, but as I mentioned earlier, waste management at this point in the plan, the recommendation is to really focus on proven technologies and proven methods. And so once this has been proven to be a way to manage a huge amount of cars and compost, then waste management can consider it. But at this point, the plan discourages proof of concept approaches.
Dr. Gonell, you take it one more, so you move into
This one. Let's go to, I think we have to switch to online. If there's any questions.
St. John, does any question on St. John?
Thank you. I'm sure.
Rashi?
Any
No
question on
questions from St. John.
Okay, thank you. Online, any question online? 2 questions online.
Those were already answered, unless someone raised their hand.
Yes, if you want to speak online, please raise your hand. Okay, so we're going to move back to St. Croix. Any question from the audience? Yes, ma'am. Can you come to the podium, please?
Good evening. My name is Carrie Gilbo. I have 2 questions. First is I applaud the pieces of the plan that look for ways to turn the waste materials into revenue. The crushed glass is a great example. The replastic recycle operation here on St. Croix is another great example. I'm concerned about fees. I mean, we all know the Virgin Islanders, we're all burdened, LEAC, syntax, and to walk into this meeting and just hear, slide after slide, another fee for us, another fee for us, another fee for us. It's a little bit disheartening. I would really appreciate more thought and effort into ways to get some sort of monetary resource out of our commodities. And with that, I don't see how putting a fee is an incentive for people to not dump their white trash and, the white goods in the bush. If anything, a fee, I think, is going to have more people putting the trash in the bush or finding other ways or ordering stuff from off island or finding ways to avoid the fees. So one thing for thought is like, I just bought a battery the other day. My car battery died. I went to Napa, picked up the battery. I had to pay a fee, but I get that fee back when I bring the battery back. So in the exceptions where there is no other course of action other than a fee, has Waste Management considered some sort of incentivized program where the person feels like they're getting something back out of it, so that they get charged a fee, but they get some portion of that fee back when they bring the item to the collection center? So that's the first question. And then second question, and my apologies for being late, the traffic. I didn't realize the highway was closed. Did I miss anything about waste oil or used oil, especially from DIYers?
DIY?
From people like changing their oil in their yard?
Oh, yeah.
What's the plan for
plan is
used
to-
oil and waste
The
oil?
plan is to create collection centers for
Okay.
the used oil
Is that in
in the
this-
convenience centers.
That's in this
Yes.
current plan?
Yes.
When I look at it
Yes,
online?
because it's already on plan, on track for St. Croix, I believe. There's plans for that on St. Croix. And so the idea is to bring it to St. Thomas and really sort of make sure everybody can bring their used oil to the convenience centers.
Okay.
So on your first, is that it?
That's it. And then maybe, again, on finding ways to make money, so I'm dealing with a lot of waste materials at the refinery. I've talked to folks about tires. There is fuel, waste tire fuel. You can sell tires at entities that will purchase it if it's the right volume. So there are, besides the glass and the plastics that you talked about, there are other existing proven technologies, which I applaud that. It makes sense to not try something new and to go with the.
So I'll start with the tire. Is that it?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. So I'll start with the tires and I'll go back to the first question about the fees, and then Director Ware can interject. So on the tires, what I found for the tires is that some of those manufacturers who can extract value out of tires, they need a lot of tires to be able to be valuable. And so we don't have enough of this in the island. Puerto Rico does, but we don't. And so the idea would be to ship the tires to Puerto Rico, but you need money for that. And again, like I said earlier, there's a fee on tires, but unfortunately, Waste Management does not get that fee from OMB. And so really sort of strengthening that, maybe, that money goes directly into Waste Management instead of being dependent on the general funds to get their money back. On the fees, I hear you. I mean, I live here. I don't want to pay more fees, but that's how you finance the pickup. If you are guaranteed pickup of your white goods, it will not end up in the bush because the fee goes into paying the person to come to your house to pick it up for you. In terms of fees being a discouragement. I personally see it differently. If I have to actually pay a fee if I buy a fridge, I'm going to try to keep that fridge for as long as I can so I don't have to buy a new fridge and pay another fee. And so that's why we had the point about the reuse and the repair and really sort of figuring out how we can increase that capacity in the territory. Because like I said, right now, it's very difficult to find people to fix fridges, to fix, things. I had to fix my washing machine. I had to do it myself with YouTube videos because I couldn't find, somebody, super quickly on island, right? So the idea of the fee is to not only allow for guaranteed coming up to your house and have that, revenue for that. And in addition, we encourage reuse, repair to try to minimize people discarding things. So I hear you about the fees, but until we figure out the finances, until we're figuring out, hey, we're making so much money out of metal that we can, waive the fee. Right now, that's the best way that we could find to address the issue of illegal dumping and paying for the management. So sorry, we have to move on. Maybe you can ask a second question and then maybe the next one.
You didn't want me to answer?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I'm sorry, Dr. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, I hear you regarding the fees, but I wanted to pivot a little bit to, like these, like the tires, for example, right? And the tire fee. Well, we did get, money for tire disposal. At $1 and $2 a tire, right? That's changed. It is such a small amount of money. It does not in any way allow us to address shipping tires off the island, number one. Number two, we have over 1 million tires collectively in the landfills alone, right? The approach that you're gonna bring one trailer here and one trailer there, we will all be dead before the tires are gone, right? Instead, I've been working with larger companies who want all the tires, and they want all the tires now. They will set up their own spot here. They will bring their own shredders. They will put them on sand barges, and we will have our tire situation within our landfills solved in a relatively short period of time.
What's the cost?
Right? That cost still is being organized.
What's the cost?
The cost of you is nothing. Cost of the people. But the idea that this money at $1 and $2 adds up to something so significant that could solve the problem is a fallacy. And the idea that you could solve a tire issue one trailer at a time is a fallacy. There are bigger things out there. We're working on them. They'll come. The tire issue been here for decades. We're working on a solution in the near future. I just wanted folks to understand that. That's on one hand. On the other hand, when you're dealing with waste to energy solutions for the territory, you're dealing with bigger things. They need all there's a specific name they call it material.
From multiple resources.
No.
Resources.
They need all the good material that can be turned into energy, right? I have been in 16 different presentations of companies who want to do business here. Like Dr. Gwinnell's study showed, right? Unless these two size 12s could stand up on their existing facility that works, they could show me proof of concept with their technology, they're not coming in. The Vernon is not a playground. Right? So request RFQs will be coming out in the near future to obtain proposals for waste to energy solutions. When you're talking about waste diversions, this is a great way to handle it. Okay? If we go back to Dr. Gwinnell's slide with his timelines, and which Don brought up about the timeline being long on some of the issues, we are in the process of dealing with those issues, like, no. I would like to keep the timelines where they are, so I could look like a genius when I solve them in a year. But these are things that are moving, guys. And I just want y'all to know that there's nobody sitting around on their thumbs. Yeah, thank you. All right.
So, yes, we have 15 minutes. So, second question for St. Croix. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Marissa.
evening.
My name is Marissa Williams, just a community resident of St. Croix. I'm concerned, I know he mentioned about tires, and I applaud what he's saying. But one of our major issues is we're turning in tires to these companies, but our tires are still ending up all over the island. So how are we solving that issue? And my second question deals with the environmental impact on our islands with the tourism industry. How are we gonna have these individuals help to pay to get rid of all that waste that they're from the hospitality industry, and the restaurants that they are also involved in? Thank you.
Thank you.
I have those answers. Dr. Gonal, you can't possibly answer them questions.
No, I was about to
Yeah.
ask you.
So the first one on the tires and the payment, right? We have ramped up our enforcement issues, our enforcement activities at the all-time high. When you're talking about tires that's ending up all over the place, I do not believe it's you and I putting them there. But supposedly reputable tire companies are supposed to be paying to get these tires off. I think they take in $5 and $10 from people. 10. See what I mean? Right? We have in the last 2 weeks did stings and caught 2 different tire companies dumping tires in our bushes. The first hearing for one of them, that's Thursday. Next Thursday on St. Croix. Unfortunately, I can't be at that because I have my budget hearing. At the budget hearing, of course, the director of enforcement and his team is going to be there, right? But at the hearing, you will hear about the question to the tourism impact on our landfills and our trash collection. At this time, you will hear a proposal on a $3 a night hotel stay and Airbnb, however you would call the everything that encompasses what Airbnb does. Short-term rentals, nightly stay. That's expected to generate, I believe, $3 million for the authority, right? Because we recognize that it is all of us that's a part of this, right? And you might ask, well, why not the ports? I think the ports was a right now solution for me in light of, if you guys follow in the news, the airlines and the cruise lines fighting back on the cost already. If I was supposed to go and try to say that I'm generating revenue by adding something there, it would get caught up in the fight. And I need money like now. So that could be revisited down the road. But at Thursday's budget hearing, you'll hear about all this. Yeah.
Thank you. So before we go online, we need to go to St. Thomas. So St. Thomas, 2 questions.
He was first and then he wanted to.
No, I'm good.
Oh, you good.
Yes, good afternoon. First of all, thank you, Dr. Piazzolo and Mr. Hannibal here, for this presentation, because it is so enlightening and so encouraging to see so much effort going into addressing our long overdue problem, dealing with the problem of our waste. My name is Bill Newbold, and I'm with the VI Conservation Society. And a lot of the subject discussion comes down to generating the revenue to handle this huge problem. And I just have a couple of quick things to bring up. you mentioned the hotel room tax. I'm on the board of the Hotel Association as well. The hotel room tax generates, depends on the year, but 40, 50, even $60 million. That and our present rate is about 12%. We should be asking for a portion of that to handle waste management. Likewise, cruise ships. I think there's about 1.5 million cruise ship passengers in a given year. If we charge our cruise ship passengers $2 a head, there's roughly $3+ million that could go towards waste management. Plastic bottles, frequently in a lot of places around the world and down island, they have a fee for bringing in a plastic bottle. Say it's 15 cents, 20 cents, which then puts a value to these things, or that would encourage the recycling, the return, that could go into, that money could go towards the recycling effort. And then, well, we mentioned the road tax for the cars, which is a major problem. If we could have some sort of way of, when you pay your road tax, and when your car is used as useful life, it could be delivered to you in a certain condition, and you could get some of your road tax. So the incentive for them, for the individual car owners, to deliver the car to a certain location. And then finally, I just want to mention the topic of incinerators, which there's a lot of high-tech incinerators going on these days. And I frequently mention St. Bart's have an incinerator that handles a large portion of their waste, and they generate power and create water from that heat generated by the waste, and it's right in the middle of town, right in the middle of the town. So the actual heat generated or the exhaust generated is not a problem. So there's those kinds of technologies that are out there that could help with the larger problem of how to get rid of some of this waste. That is, as Dr. Hannibal mentioned, where that has to be figured out how to get rid of.
Yes.
So thank you very much, and I again appreciate hearing all this. And you said if we had written, we could send in comments in writing.
Yes,
And
please,
also-
that would be good, because I think you gave some good comments. So please send those comments in writing. Thank you.
Could you put that up again?
Yes, I
Well,
will
I-
put that up again. Yes, yes. Is there another question?
There's a
from
question
St.
online.
There's a question here.
No,
This
but
question-
second question from St. Thomas before we go online.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Winnell, and Mr. Newell touched on it. The topic, so as a waste management facility, we have a capacity of different types of waste that you can deal with. There is a growing trend of, well, car rentals and other things with cars. So there's a flux of cars coming in, and those cars at some point are going to expire. And without a plan on how to address with that bulk expiration that we're going to get within, let's say, 5 years, then we're going to have more cars on the sides of the roads that we currently have. So I know that there's plans on trying to tax the cars coming in, so you capture the fee, disposal fee in front. So when it lands, you already have it, so you can take care of it. But we still, like the tires, there is every bush that you open, there's tire cars there. So that's not mentioned in the management fund.
The issue is that, like Dr. Gonell in the plan, he speaks about governance. And he said early on, he pointed out, cars are not the responsibility of Waste Management Authority. That's not my responsibility.
Right.
Right? So when you talk about that fee not gonna go up to me. That fee gonna go to who's responsible for having these cars removed.
Who is?
Who is right now police department, the administrator office, who have that with no budget, by the way. And that's what happens. Then they come to us. They have to pay to have the all the liquids taken out. They don't want to do that. They gotta pay to have it removed. So that's what happens. There has to be a change in the governance that allows all of us to be, either waste management be responsible for waste period,
Always,
right? Or something along those lines.
Yes.
Or it goes somewhere else. That's what he's talking about in the plan relative to governance. He definitely has to go to the internet, correct? Dr. Goda,
Definitely, what you say, I definitely have what?
you have to go to the internet question, right?
Oh,
That's next.
internet question. Yes, internet question. There was one question I saw online. Sorry.
Good evening.
The question, can we actually get the money? I think that we talked about this. Anybody online who wants to ask a question?
Yes. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so it's more of a comment than a question. I really think the timeline needs to be readjusted for composting and mulching. There is on the 3 to 6 year schedule. I think it needs to be boosted to the 1 to 3 schedule based on programs that are existing programs that have been researched, especially by Island Green Living and the Coalition from EPA Community Challenge. Those were real. We submitted it last year, so it is very much up-to-date information, science-driven, and need to be looked at for both compost and mulching. Secondly, I wanted to know, even though I heard something about the monies not being that for the tires, not being that significant, I think somehow who do we go to divert that money from going to OMB? As citizens, who would we contact? Would we contact our senators and let them know that that is a fund designed for waste management? It is a waste management issue and not a general fund issue. And how can we get those, even though they're mere whatever dollars it is annually? It's definitely something that needs to go to waste management to be used properly for what it is. Because when things go into the general pot, sometimes it takes tooth and nail to get it to where it really is needed. The next statement and comment, I know you said two, but this is really quick. I believe in community small scale community action program. So just like the center out by Mahogany Run, there could be a small community recycle centers for certain items in certain communities. There was also grant program through waste management where communities come up with solutions to assist their community. And that was a very successful program. I guess the funds for that might have came through the bottle program that used to be, I'm not sure. But at that many years ago, we suggested a chipper and mulcher in the Bordeaux community so that when landscapers finish, they could come to Bordeaux where the farmers were, and we would chip and shred their organic matter there, and that it never went through. They failed because we were trying to pay the person to do the job that we were doing a capital development for our organization. So I don't think really that timeline can get those two items pushed up to the 1 and 3 category year. Thank you so much, and I wait to hear your comment.
Thank you. Director, you want to answer the composting question?
Yeah, real quick, because I know it's 7 o'clock. The composting question, we can move it up to tomorrow if I have a private partner to partner with. That's all I need.
How big of a partner?
The partner got to be able to.
How much capital investment is required?
That's quite interesting, right? Because the presentations that have been made to me on it requiring up to $3 million capital investment from me.
Okay, so then you need.
So I need capital investment from you in that amount, which is what I told the guy just yesterday. I said, I have the easiest job here. I have a waste. Come get it, free.
It's free.
Yeah.
One thing that nobody's mentioned, very important. Motor oil. We've got about 6 to 7 tons of motor oil to deal with. It's not a monthly or yearly basis. That's just irreparable damage. Once it reaches the water wells, that takes over 100 years to clear out. That's almost not a resource of water.
I got you. Dr. Gordon?
No, I don't have anything else to add. I guess, yes, I have something else to add. 2 things. Please send your comments. Any questions that we didn't answer, please send all of that. What we will do is we will send, when the document is final, we will provide all the comments, make them public, and we will remove the names, but we will provide all the comments and the answers to the comments. We have already done that for the first meeting. We will do that for the second. It will be published when the document is final. We will also publish the final document. Based on tonight, there are a few comments that definitely we will take into account to update the document one more time, and then that will be it in terms of additional input. In terms of the comments from the person online, those are very good comments. You mentioned a lot of community sort of action, as Mr. Ware sort of suggesting. Please go ahead and start that now. The Waste Management Authority at the moment cannot really launch this type of community effort. But if there is community groups, community people who want to start those activities, please start them now. Encourage strongly to partner with others, because the more people get into business together, the more chances of success. So please start those now. We can add a section in the plan to encourage the public and community to start, diversion program themselves. The more we have, the more we divert from the landfill, the less we're going to need for space in the landfill in the future. So that's my response to that question online. And like I said, please go online and send your comments. Ms. Joseph?
Thank you guys for coming. Thank you online, St. John, St. Thomas. It's exciting. And as I said before, to have all this discussion and coming together of minds so that we can have a document that's reflective of where the Virgin Islands need to go. That's unique to what our challenges are. And so thank you again. I'm Natalie Joseph Gallagher. I'm going to be more or less implementing the plan along with the rest of the solid waste team. And so your input helps us to have an effective plan. Thanks for, again, sharing your time with us, and have a wonderful evening.